Right now on Tech Radio, it's a Chromebook, only it's not a Chromebook.
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1116 with news from Google I.O. this week. eBay turns down a suitor and a new commissioner to keep tech in check at Comreg. Plus, we give you a whistle-stop tour of the winners at this week's Tech Excellent Awards. Let's get to it.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty Rhodes. Joining me as always, our editor-in-chief, Niall Kitson. Niall, we'll get to the Tech Excellence Awards later on, but let's start off with the big international tech story of the week, and that is Google I.O. And what's new in Android? What have we got?
Yeah, two big developments out of I.O. To be honest, I wasn't blown away this year by half of it anyway, because it was kind of stuff that we've talked about already, only now it works. Which was basically what they were talking about in terms of app automation. So being able to say to Gemini, book me a car park place at for this event, right? And Gemini will now be able to go off and do that. These are the things that when we saw Gemini, in demo, we were thinking, God, that's really impressive. Like, I mean, I'm not sure I use it, but it's great that AI can accomplish such things. And that's not really the way it worked out. So we're not going to see broad application of this sort of thing just yet. They're trying it out on only a couple of apps, mostly related to food and groceries, and then, ride sharing, that sort of thing. Of course, Google has its interest there in its Lyft, is part of what they own, isn't it? So that's the sort of thing that they are touting. I'm going to park that to one side because, as I said, it's something we've seen before, only now they're saying it works, or rather, it works, but on a very small number of apps. So that's where we are on app automation. More interesting is the Google Book, which ties in directly to our tagline this week. It's Chromebook, but it's not. Okay, it looks like a Chromebook. It sounds like a Chromebook. Well, kind of looks like a Chromebook. There's one or two things we can talk about there. What's your initial impressions?
Well, like yourself, I'm kind of thinking, well, we've had Chromebooks and we know exactly what they are. And then this Google Book just seems to be kind of more of the same. But as you say, it doesn't seem to be tied in specifically to Google. Does that make sense? In that, like, kind of, I think any vendor will be able to make a Google Book.
Yeah, in that sort of Android sense, pretty much anyone will be able to make a Google Book, right? But there are two things that are interesting, therefore. In order for a Google Book to be a Google Book, at least in the version that we saw, which I think was built by Lenovo, they had two things, right? They had what they're calling a glow bar, which is a little sort of bar of light. It's got red, blue, green light on the lid. Function TBC from what we can tell, but apparently it's a sort of feature that's been used on other laptops so far. It's kind of, I think I saw one particularly swish use of showing off battery life, for example. So you don't even need to open your laptop to see what the battery is like. I think that's kind of nice. So we're not entirely sure what this version of the Glow Bar will be for. Maybe it will just be for something like Gemini picking up a voice commander or something like that. And the second thing is a G key, a dedicated Google key. Again, unfortunately, we don't know what this is for yet. Now, if you want shorthand as to what the difference is, I mean, a Chromebook is basically an Android laptop. Well, I mean, it's based on Chromium OS, but it's effectively it's
a blown up phone.
Yeah. And the Google book is really making no bones about this, right? There, it's very much, you can use your mobile phone apps on this. So it's like, okay, right. Well, we've kind of been here before. But the presentation that they showed was all very Gemini heavy. So in the way that the Chromebook was the Android laptop, this is the Gemini laptop. And this is where the distinction is. And is there a market for this kind of thing? Well, when Gemini gets better, certainly, I think. Today, I think it's a very, it's an interesting looking piece of hardware. But if you were to put it side by side with the MacBook Neo, I still know which one I'm buying.
I think it's interesting where you mentioned its reliance on Gemini, and I find Gemini very good lately. So just on the marketing side of things, kind of, all right, Chromebook, we know what it does. It has like 15 years of heritage there. Then you bring in a Google book, which is a bit like, it's exactly what we're asking. What's that? But how would it be if they changed the name to Gemini book?
I mean, why not?
It would make an awful lot more sense because you know what it would do. Okay, I'm going to open up this laptop and this is being driven primarily by AI to help me do things.
There's one interesting reason why they mightn't be calling it a Gemini laptop specifically. Maybe it's the sense that people are not convinced of the use of Gemini, that it's reliable, that it can do enough, or maybe that people maybe just don't trust it, or maybe the uptake isn't there that Google wants. Maybe they think, okay, look, we've pushed out Gemini into everything, but for the amount of effort we are putting into pushing it, we don't have the user numbers there to justify a dedicated piece of hardware just yet. So let's push it as our own brand laptop, let people buy it as such, and have them get used to and enjoy using Gemini that way.
Maybe. Yeah. Sorry, I'm being very...
very non-committal over it.
Very non-committal. I would have said that this year's Google I.O. was kind of just a bit, kind of okay. Nothing. As you say, it's apps that do what they said they were going to do last year, but in a limited way. And then they've brought out a very confusing piece of hardware. It's kind of like, anyway, whichever.
Here's the thing, right? I put two devices in front of you, both of which are running on mobile phone chips. Okay, we'll say the Google Book and versus the MacBook Neo. On paper, which one do you go with? Do you go with a laptop with a substandard AI, or do you go with a laptop that's perhaps a bit more forward-looking but a different UI?
I definitely go with the one with the more proven hardware. I'll go with the Apple. My answer actually would be that I wouldn't buy either because they're powered by mobile phone chips. But if I had to choose between the two, I would go with Apple because Apple have got a very good reputation. And generally, I want to use a laptop or something, whenever, for things that are not AI related. Do you know what I mean? I want to watch a video. I want to, kind of talk to my friends. I want to send emails. I want to look at the web, whatever, that kind of stuff. I don't necessarily need AI for everything. So, right. Other stuff that's going on this week. Not good news for Ireland and LinkedIn.
Not good news for employees at LinkedIn, full stop. LinkedIn employs 17,500 people around the world. I actually thought it would have been a bit bigger. Given its dominance, I thought that was a little bit underwhelming, I have to say. But of course, it's owned by Microsoft. But LinkedIn is letting go 5% of its staff globally. We know why that is. This is a profitable company. It's doing very well. They're looking to save money on wages to bet on AI. We know this is the playbook. We've seen it everywhere. We're actually seeing it with Cisco at the same time as well. Cisco have had record results and they're letting go 4,000 people in the States. Part of the exit package is we'll keep your Cisco skills current for a year. I'm sorry. I just think that is absolutely ridiculous. That's up there with people posting on LinkedIn that they were so grateful to have worked with such a fantastic company. It's like, you've been fired. You've been training your replacement for the last year. Just a little bit of bitterness is completely appropriate.
Maybe, but not clever.
Maybe not clever, but hey, you'll feel better for it.
You want to.
So in Ireland, that translates to perhaps 80 staff. So we don't know from whence they will be leaving. The only thing we do know is that no job is safe anymore. These could be engineers, these could be in sales, it could be marketing, could be a mix. It's something that unfortunately we're wait and seeing on right now.
Okay, elsewhere in the world of tech, we have the star appearance of Sam Altman has now taken the stand in California against Musk, etc., and so on and so forth. How did he do? What did he say?
Well, I mean, it's important to restate why we're here in the first place. Elon Musk invested $39 million in what he thought was a charity, called OpenAI. OpenAI created a for-profit wing of the company, subsequently invested in by Microsoft. Musk says, hang on, I invested 38 million in a charity. This whole other thing you're setting up here is basically, it's going to be what I invested in, only it's for profit. You cannot steal from a charity. That's not right. Of course, the counter argument is you invested. That's it. And I'm still in the let them fight category. I really do not care how this case turns out. Musk went on the stand for 3 days last week. He did not acquit himself particularly well. By all accounts, OpenAI's lawyer kind of ran rings around him and got him to lose his temper a few times. Altman started weak, but kind of grew into things. He was on the stand for 4 hours so far, and has been fairly straightforward. He hasn't sort of raised his voice or anything. He's just been, this is what we did, and pretty good testimony. In contrast to Greg Brockman last week, who had his diaries used against him, which I feel very, very sad for the guy about, especially when there was a line in it saying, if we start making money off this, we're going to be the most hated people in the world. So not a great look, but hey, I mean, and even Satya Nadella took the stand on this on Monday. He doesn't seem to have sort of given the game away. But look, there are no winners here. All this has done is expose people to Musk's impulsive personality, Altman's kind of robotic nature, if there's any merit to this whatsoever, there's which I'm not really sure there is now. Last week I was kind of wavering on this. I think this is pretty much a nuisance suit being fought out by two people that can afford it. Of course, Altman was potentially caught in a lie during his testimony. When he went in front of the Senate, I think he said something about the amount of money that he was making off OpenAI. At the time, he was a billionaire. He said that he wasn't, effectively, if that is my recollection at this moment. And I mean, let them fight. Otherwise, the main winner is Anthropic, who are now catching up big time on OpenAI in the business space, because Claude, it's becoming a tool of choice for coders. And of course, people like yourself and myself in media, because it's better at writing things than ChatGPT. If you want an answer to something, ChatGPT will give it to you in an answer-like format, which I think is why it is still as popular as it is. But yeah, for me, the only winner here is Anthropic. You have Elon Musk's personal brand being trashed. You have OpenAI's brand under scrutiny, we'll say. You remember what I said either last year or 2 weeks ago. One of the main problems this trial has had is finding a jury, because everybody has either a negative perspective of Musk and or Altman, or of their companies. So who cares about any of this? It's popcorn stuff.
There we go. Oh my goodness. We're not having a very good show this week, Niall. We've got a very with Google I.O. With people are losing jobs in LinkedIn. We don't care about the biggest court case in the world. Let's see if we can get something else, because I know we've stories to go about eBay and Amazon. But first, we have our first online safety commissioner, Niamh Hodnett, and she's moving to Comreg as commissioner for the Commission of Communications Regulations. Tell me about this and what it means for tech.
Yeah, well, I mean, Comreg, we talk about occasionally on the show. Of course, our main interaction with Comreg is through, this is the agency that looks after telcos basically, but also, calls, text, data, but also looks after radio as well. So Comreg is in charge of the DAB trials, aren't they?
They would license, the way that it's a convoluted way. They would be responsible for letting it happen. Yeah.
So, as you said, Niamh Hodnett was our first online safety commissioner at Comisiún na Meán. Appointed in 2022, feels like she was around for a little bit longer. 23. Just at the time the commission was being set up. And she oversaw the development of the first online safety code. So this was something that was kind of needed, some sort of signpost to say, look, this is what's appropriate, this is what isn't appropriate. Of course, Comisiún na Meán is the body that is responsible for user protection, in particular implementing the Digital Services Act. In her background, very eminent woman. She previously worked at law firms in Ireland and in the EU. I think she also had a previous position at Comreg as well. And of course, she worked in the National Lottery and in regulatory affairs at 3 Ireland. I don't know how that's going to come down. But anyway, and she's written books on European law and Irish regulatory law. The only thing I would say about Niamh Hodnett's term is that we didn't get to see her more in action. I was excited about the appointment and I wanted to see what it would look like for Comisiún na Meán to go toe-to-toe with big tech. I want to see that happen. And unfortunately, we didn't get that. So that's kind of it. I mean, would you have dealt with Niamh in your previous life with Comreg?
No, I wouldn't have. Just to tidy up that question you were asking about the license, Comreg are the ones who look after the frequencies for radio, and they're the ones who would issue the license, but they only issue a license on the request of Comisiún na Meán, who used to be the broadcasting regulator. So if you want a license to broadcast, you have to go to Comisiún na Meán to say, I want to start a radio station, and this is what we're going to do, and it'll all be above board, etc. And then they will say, okay, well, we approve what you're going to do. Now we have to go to Comreg to actually issue the technical license with a frequency, etc. That's how it works in radio world. And I won't go into it any further because I'll put everybody asleep. Listen, next story for us this week. Now, this will be of interest to developers, right? Very much up our alley. Amazon have introduced targets for developers about using AI and why.
Okay. So on one level, you can look at it as enterprises are looking to accelerate their adoption of AI by forcing developers to use a certain number of tokens per day. Now, a token is basically a query, right? And very often, these are big numbers. Like very often, it's like 1,000 queries a day or something like that. So Amazon employees, developers, because they are very smart people, they have been asked to deploy this in-house platform called Meshclaw, right? And this was all about creating AI agents that can connect workplace software and carry out tasks for people, right? And basically, the number of tokens developers are being told they're going to have to use is such that they are starting to create agents and use tokens to automate tasks that are completely useless and mundane. You have people potentially, right? I'm using this as an example off the top of my head. I'm not saying this is what's happening internally, but say, Dusty, you are looking to reduce your intake of coffee during the week. right? Imagine if you've got a pretty good diary for, I'll have coffee first thing with my lunch and then one in the afternoon. I'm going to have 3 coffees a day. You probably have more. But anyway, we'll say that. Instead of just, using a little bit of willpower and going, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to develop an app that will tell me when I cannot have a cup of coffee just to use up the tokens. So I will get a message on the hour saying, don't do this. And I will create another agent that will ask me, am I using this agent correctly? And so on and so forth. Just coming up with ridiculous tasks that get automated just to reach these token limits.
So essentially, they have been set a target and they are just doing absolute nonsense. It's like, as we've often said, is it something like 5% of all powering AI is used to respond to people who say thank you? It's something simple like that,
Yeah.
That's bananas. Well, what I'll be interested to see with that story as it develops is how the wilder and more creative uses of useless AI tasks. That's what I'll be interested to see. They should have a competition for the most useless tasks and the winner is the one who uses the most tokens. I think we wait and say it's a disgusting waste though of energy, isn't it? And resources and what have you. Listen, last story for this week. Let's talk about GameStop, because that was kind of was it around? It was during COVID. It was, I think, yeah, and it became kind of a meme stock and the darling of the whatever. And I'm kind of thinking to myself, they're still on the go, really? All right, fair enough. But not only are they still on the go, but they've got a ton of money to go and buy one of the biggest brands in the world. What's the latest?
Nah, they do and they don't. GameStop was on its knees. GameStop was pretty much gone stop until 2021 when there was a massive brigade organized on Reddit populated by people who have a lot of nostalgia for the brand. And we're like, nope, we've got to solve this. We've got to save GameStop. People descended on the markets, bought up shares for ridiculous amounts of money. Nobody expects a return on GameStop shares. It's basically just there to keep the company alive. Now, during the week, or rather, what was during the week? I think it was just last week this happened. The CEO of GameStop, Ryan Cohen, came out with a bid for eBay. Not to say that eBay was for sale in the first place. But anyway, he said, okay, GameStop is making a bid of $55.5 billion for eBay, which is officially valued at like 47 billion. So on one level, it's like, hey, that's a win for shareholders. This would be put together in a mix of cash, stock and debt. By the way, if you want to learn about debt and its role in the ownership of companies, have a look at what happens behind private equity, where it's basically, this is a private equity deal. This is, you come up with enough money up front and then use the debt that you are loading onto the company to buy said company, right? So say, Dusty, you have a company worth a tenner. I come along, I say, right, I'm going to give you 250 now and I will pay you 750 later, right? You say, that's a fine deal. You get out. I come in with 250 and I take a loan out by the company I've just bought for the rest. And then I pay you with that. And then the company is now in debt and can't invest in anything because it's got a debt to service. So I make sure I get paid. You made sure you get paid, but there's no investment in the company. That is private equity at work, and that was the goal here, because I think GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen did a fascinating interview with I think it was CBS CNBC, corporate NBC, last week, and it was almost meme worthy itself. He was just like, yeah, we're doing this and we're doing this. And the anchor said, that doesn't add up to what you're offering. And he was like, but if you look at the maths, it is. And the anchor was like, no, it's not. Like this bid doesn't make any sense. To which eBay came back this week in the form of Chairman Paul Pressler, who said, your proposal is neither credible nor attractive. It's a very straight-laced statement. I'm sure that's the polite version. I'm sure there was another one circulating around eBay towers. But there you go. eBay not going anywhere. But viral moment. Ryan Cohen explaining how he's going to buy eBay. Which, to be honest, if that was to be the goal, to elevate the profile of GameStop and remind people that it's still there and you can buy shares in it, well, then I think they have certainly its mission accomplished there.
For some reason, with your quote that you gave from Paul Pressler, I can see the exact same words being used by a lady in a late night bar talking to a gentleman who's quite interested in her, and her going, your proposal is neither credible nor attractive.
Ouch.
Ouch, indeed. Now, that's it for the news this week. Thanks for keeping us up to date.
Delivering Irish tech news since 2006. This is Tech Radio.
The Tech Excellence Awards in association with IP Telecom took place last night at the Royal Marine Hotel in Dublin, with the glitterati of the tech world in attendance, including our very own Niall Kitts, who was there to soak up the sights and the sounds. And to bring us back, first thing today, who were the winners? There were 23 awards on the night, but right now we're just going to take a look at the biggies. Okay, Niall, so let's do a whistle-stop tour then of the awards. Where shall we start?
Yeah, well, let's start with the Person of the Year, which I know sounds like a strange place to start, but hey, let's go straight to the top of the pile, because this is somebody we talked to quite recently on the show. It was Rena Maycock of Chirp. For those who don't remember what Chirp does, they're a deep tech startup. And what they are looking to do is to embed child cybersecurity software at the level of the operating system in mobile phones and tablets. Really worthy winner. I have to say, I was delighted for her, and it's always good to see people who have been on the show go on to do well and be recognized in the industry. So Rena Maycock of Chirp, Person of the Year. We also have the Lifetime Achievement Award, which went to Frank Ryan, who is former Enterprise Ireland CEO and former chair of the IDA. You might not know the name, but you're certainly familiar with his work. He was an essential person when it came to bringing Intel to Ireland. Intel, of course, having that super important campus out in Leixlip. Multinational of the Year went to HPE Ireland. Company of the Year went to Echo. Our Rising Star, also mentioned recently enough on Tech Radio, is Clara Mulligan. Mentioned, I'm going to say that loosely. She's one of the founders of Homebot, and we talked about Homebot on our Christmas show, because Homebot has an Irish accent. She has an Irish voice, and it turns out we know her.
We do. She's our producer here at the podcast production company DustPod, Louise. She does all the voiceovers for her,
which was hilarious because we didn't know this, and we were just talking about this wonderful thing, Homebot, that has arrived, and it's an Irish accent, and let's support it and all that. And then Louise put her hand up and went, "That's actually me."
Let's move on to the Project Awards, kind of looking at the public, private, and SME sectors. Who were the winners this year, and what did they do?
Yeah, the Project Awards are always very popular because people want to talk about what they've been working on. It's also a fantastic bellwether to see where the industry is, because there are certain things that you expect will come up or will be applied in a certain way. And that's very often not what happens. So anyway, I'll go through them in turn. And some of these might be things that will go under your radar, but the benefits of which are amazing. And the fact that they went under your radar is kind of testament to how well they worked. So in the public sector, the HSE picked up an award for their maternal and newborn clinical management system. And what that does is it provides a single electronic health record for women and babies in maternity, gynecology, and neonatology services around the country. So I think that's the sort of thing that you shouldn't notice it at work. It just works. And I think, any sort of digitization project, anything with medical records, it's always fraught with, things like bad handwriting or legacy systems that don't talk to each other, all that kind of thing. So that was a huge project. Glad to see it being recognized. In the private sector, Storm Technology and Net Zero went to work on marrying financial services together. Net Zero is kind of, I think they're a VC firm, but they would have dealings with companies with systems all over the place. So they might be dealing with Big Red Cloud, Sage 50, Sage 1, Microsoft Dynamics, QuickBooks, anything you can think of, right? And they have all these companies on these different systems, and their project was to actually come up with some way to unify them and come up with one company-wide system. So that was from the private sector, Storm Technology and Net Zero. Now, as anyone who has ever dealt with the public sector knows, tenders are a minefield. There's just so much information out there, and it's hard to know whether the bid you're putting forward is credible. How it stacks up to other people's bids. Have you put in enough time? Have you put in too much time? Have you been too specific? Have you been not specific? All these things are up in the air. Not so much now, thanks to the winner of the SME Project Award, Bid Review. Bidreview.ai, and they've addressed a way to look at that gap in the public procurement ecosystem. So, you're a company, you arrive, you just want to provide something that, is affordable, that will solve a problem, and to know the quality of your submission before you actually send it in. So that's what Bid Review does. Hugely impressive project. Not with us very long, actually. Still quite a new endeavor. But there you go, Bid Review. Have a look if you're interested in dealing with the public sector anytime soon. It's certainly worth your while.
Needless to say, all of the award winners, and I hope some photos and everything will be going up on the website at techcentral.ie. Let's move on to sustainability, a big section of the awards, and a new feature this year as well.
Yeah, this year, the Sustainability Award is co-branded with Techies Go Green, which is an industry body. We've actually interviewed Michael O'Hara from Techies Go Green a while ago to talk about the body's mission. Membership has since exploded. I'd like to think it's because of our interview, but hey, one can dream. To the stage where they're employing their own staff now, and they have decided to co-brand the Sustainability Award. And the winner this year is Fast Track into Information Technology, or FISH. If you're familiar with the brand. In particular, they were rewarded for their work on circular economy, making sure that people keep their skills current, but also that no hardware gets left behind. That, if there's something that can be fixed, make sure it gets fixed rather than replaced. That kind of ethos. So something that's very much in line with the EU right to repair. This is something that FISH has been promoting internally, and that's what got them over the line there. Kind of last thing I want to mention is the Diversity Award, which was sponsored this year by Logitech, who we had actually talked about last February, around the same time we were talking to Rena Maycock. We were talking to Logitech about their involvement in I Wish, which is an initiative designed to get more women and girls, or rather more secondary school girls, interested in careers in STEM. And the winner this year was EvComs. And what they brought to the table that was quite interesting was sort of their commitment to not just celebrating kind of, landmark days during the year, but also making sure they create an environment where, you know, they're looking at gender, they're looking at age, they're looking at where people come from, all these sorts of things to create an environment where people just feel kind of safe and feel like they can advance their careers, and know that there's nothing hanging over their head. Because, you know, yourself and myself, we're not getting any younger. Sometimes you look at a job listing and you're like, that's a young person's job right there. Or I know exactly who somebody wants in that job and it ain't me. Dispelling those kind of notions is what EvComs has been working at. And that's why they picked up the Diversity Award.
Okay, well, listen, as I say, that's just a kind of a selection that we had for no particular order and preference of awards that were given out last night in Dunleary. If you want to get the full details on the awards and the full list of winners, you'll find them on our website, techcentral.ie. Just when you're on the homepage, you'll see the red bar at the top, and it's the link on the very far right-hand side called Awards.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
Right, that wraps it up for our show this week. Packed one too, but we do have more stories online that we didn't manage to get into the podcast, including...
Yeah, we have BYD doing particularly well in their latest results. Nintendo not doing so well for reasons that are quite interesting. And the global trend of companies going quiet when they suffer a cyber attack.
All of those stories and more online at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show for you. But in the meantime, please do share our podcast with a friend. If they're into tech, just suggest to them that they look up Tech Radio Ireland wherever they listen to their podcast. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and from Niall Kitson, as always, take care and have a great weekend.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.